Richard here, your electrician buddy. And this little short episode is going to be something that I find quite often, and I said I would address it. And it has to deal with an item that really all the things we do rely on these little wire nuts. You know, and it's like, and there's all different types, different sizes and so forth. But a common question that comes up, or subject that comes up among electricians who've been in the trade for years, homeowners, whoever it might be, they're wondering, how do you install them? Now there's various theories, various ways. And so what I'm going to address is what I have found, a technique that I use, that I find to be effective, and the reason behind it. Because I believe if you try this approach, you'll have less electrical problems. Most of the electrical problems that we find in the field have to be because of bad connections. Whenever you have a callback, whenever there's wires or a joint where it's all of a sudden things start heating up unnecessarily, it's because the connection is loose or bad. And you know, I'd have to say, a lot of those problems have been because of the poor installation of a wire net. And so I'm going to show you a few techniques, a few things to try, and hopefully it'll help you when you start doing some of your own repairs or doing some of your own work, that you can actually take just this little bit of time and to do it safely. So please follow along. And remember, as I do these videos, hit the like button. And also please subscribe, because it helps me to be able to put more content out. Now, before I get into this, I do have some little help. And let's see if you can relate to the way they react to the use of these items. Pay attention.
Perhaps this is how you feel when you go to pick out what type do I use. I mean, it's totally confusing. And yet the more I look around, I have to decide on something. Is this how you feel? Is this how you react? I know with the help I have here, they couldn't decide. Eventually, they just went over and got whatever one they wanted. And perhaps that's what you do. But is it the correct one? So hopefully this video will help you as you decide. So I took a trip into the big box store, just kind of glanced through at all the various wire nets, and oh my goodness, it's overwhelming. It really is. And yet, when you understand what to use and what to buy, hopefully this video here is going to help you as you decide. So pay attention now as I proceed to help you in guiding you on.
As I mentioned, I was going to show you a few things or a few techniques that I have found to be effective in the use of wire nuts. Now again, as mentioned, there's many different types. These have the wings on them. In fact, they actually have a device that can actually go into your drill and you can use them. But you also have to be careful because you can split them out. Inside there's a little spring that actually cuts into the wire that helps bond the wire. But one of the things I found that, and I'll show you. So here's some number 12 wire, and we'll just go ahead and we'll strip this back a little bit here. And now this is stranded that I'll use on this example. Now this is one of the things that I've found quite often that where I see where electrical connections go bad. Okay, so here's the wires. Now of course, you notice when I strip them, I stripped it back just about a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch at the most. And the reason why is you look at the wire nut and you go up in, so you want to be able to have that wire nut make that bond, but then have this larger shield actually protect it where there's no exposed copper. Okay, so this is what I see happen quite often. And I'm going to show you a couple of pictures or a couple little images of some videos I did where that's what it was when I found them. So what they've done is they'll put that in there like so. So this is what I usually find. But what happens is when you fold this up into the box, and it's moved around a few times, it comes right out. So what can I do to ensure that that's going to stay? Because again, you know, it gets to where it moves around just a little bit. And before long, these wires can actually come out of there. So this is what I do. First of all, especially on stranded, first I'll take each little strand and just do a couple little twists with my alignments like so. What that does is that ensures that this wire makes that wire kind of stiff a little bit. And it keeps the edges from fraying out, just like so. Then I line them up. Get all the insulation is all lined up, the tips are lined up. Then I'll take my alignments and I put on what I call here a mechanical twist with my alignments. And so I start twisting it, just like so. Now it's like so. And I try to go back just a few inches, maybe 2. Then I'll put my wire nut on. And I'll even take my wire nut sometimes just to ensure. I'll give it just an extra little twist. Just like so. Now, it doesn't matter how many times I put in that box, whatever, it's guaranteed to be a lot better connection. Very simple, but it helps avoid problems down the road. Now, one of the other things too is how much wire should stick out of the box to work with. I've gone in sometimes to do repairs and there literally is only that much wire in the box. And so you can't even hardly work in there. So it's good that outside of the box, if my finger was the box, have that much outside to work with. It gives you a good amount to work with, and then it's easier to fold it up inside the box. So there's that with stranded. Now I'm going to show you with some solid wire. Again, here's some of the things I find. So we'll strip it. Now if you notice, I use Klein tools, which I like. And so we just go along and we'll strip it off here. I want to show you something else that I've seen. Now I'm going to use 3 wires in these examples. And the reason I'm doing 3 is because a lot of times this is some of the most common amount of wires we have, because a lot of times there's pigtails, you know, where hot goes in, hot goes out, but then it'll go to the device. Okay, so there you see it is. Now the reason why I'm showing you this is because I want to show you what happens. I've seen this. So they'll take and put the wire nut on there, like so. And now you see that copper wire that's exposed. And then they may throw a little tape on there or whatever. But what could happen is when you fold it into the box, this copper wire, the ground wire, could rub up against that and eventually cause a short. Now I know this is an extreme example, but this is just to show you these are realities of things that I come across. And again, you know, we'll pull it off, they just fall apart. So they say that with these wire nuts, you don't have to twist it with your alignments, but I do. Now that was an example of that, and I'm going to take it to the other end now to show you what it would look like when I make a connection. So I strip it back, basically about 5/8 of an inch. Just like so. Line them up. Take my alignments. It looks like so. You can kind of see it twist back a little bit, but we do that on purpose. Makes a good connection. So again, take my wire nut, this time I put it on. Now, one of the things I like to do though, is because the end right here is just a little bit not even, I make them even, so I'll nip the end of it off right here. Just ensure it back. And when I put the wire nut on, everything is even, good tight fit, and it's not going to come off of there. And of course, solid wire, you know, for stuff like this really works out nice. But there's a lot of times, especially when I'm doing commercial work, that we use stranded wire. So that's how it looks. And then you can have one go off to your device and so forth. Proper way to use a wire nut. At least that's the technique we use. It is controversial because some people may like doing it a different way, but that's the way I do it. I've been doing it this way for 40 years, very successful in doing that. Now again, there's a lot of different wire nuts. And so I'm going to show you some examples of things to keep in mind when you buy them, what to look for on the package. So I'll show you some pictures of these. And when you do, that way you'll grab the right one for the job you're doing. It does make a difference, because if you're using a little bit larger wire nut and yet you've only got two little teeny wires, just say like so, it may be an oversize for that. You may say, man, that thing just doesn't work. And, you know, and so you want to make sure that you got the right size wire nut, whether it's too small or too big, just right. And they do make them for that. There's different sizes and the various colors accordingly. So I know this was simple, but doing things correctly, you need to make sure that you do things safe. And of course, we want to make sure that when we make a connection, if that connection is loose, it will create a hot spot, which then can cause a fire. We'd hate it if we had our personal property and a fire started. So hopefully this simple video will help you to be able to make a safe connection. And please like it. Hit the like button. And please subscribe. See, by doing so, it helps me as I continue to try to put out more content to help you perhaps do your own electrical work safely. And remember, never take a chance. If there's a question in it, don't do it. You know, that's one thing about electricity. You cannot be too cautious. You need to make sure you're safe and understand what you're doing. And yet, it's not overcomplicated. It just has to be you take the time to do it right. Thanks for watching. I'm Richard, your electrician buddy.